So, thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, I hope you'll do so. And please tell your friends to do the same. Really appreciate it. It always helps me out. Today's installment on crazy stuff that's going on with our oligarch owned media. Prominent, well respected, longtime columnist at the Washington Post, Ruth Marcus, has resigned. She did this in protest because they literally stopped publication of her column where she was basically taking on the owner of the paper and owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, for his uh, basically saying that nobody can ever write anything that goes against Donald Trump. I mean, that's essentially what his decision was, the editorial um, killing of the Washington Post. So I suspect, let's see, I'm looking for something very specific here. Yeah, I suspect that she knew that she was poking the bear. This has been going on for a while, the Washington Post, and with other media outlets. It's been problematic. I've been on television with her many, many years ago around PBS together. And she's a very smart, sober thinking person. Like I said, one of these fixtures that keeps everybody sane. So the newspaper's CEO, Will Lewis, blocked the publication of her column. And basically, she was critiquing the changes to the opinion section directed by Jeff Bezos. And it sparked a lot of discussion about editorial independence. So she wrote about it. Now, in the before times, when we were still a country worth being proud of, when we still had some liberties and First Amendment, freedom of the press, freedom at all, in the era before Trump, Putin, and Elon Musk, this was something that you could do in a publication. They may not like it, but some media outlets like Fox News would crack down and not let people be independent. But for the most part, you could still do this. It was awkward, but it was the role of an independent press, and it was about keeping the editorial side very separate from the business side. Those days are obviously gone forever. So she resigned because they withheld publication because she was criticizing the owner of the paper. Not even her editor, not even the publisher. And then there's a CEO. I mean, so this type of editorial control over columnists or reporters is the death of journalism in our country. When somebody this high profile like Ruth Marcus resigns in protest, it makes big news for a reason. It is to let us know that we are in trouble. These high profile resignations and some firings in other places mean that there is an oligarch and Trump control over our media, the likes of which you don't see in America. You only see, you see it in Russia, of course. So this is significant. This is significant. Now, when I used to write for The Hill, and then I stopped writing for The Hill, and then my choice, because they were going to move me to a better time slot. I was promised a better day, because I only get paid when I write, and then they kept giving that spot to someone else, and so I confronted them, and finally I said, then take my name off your masthead. You don't have women columnists. They had like one out of 10 people, and I said it seemed to me that you didn't really want me writing. You were giving these spots to the men, but you're still having me on the website prominently so that you can pretend that you actually have women columnists. So that happened. Well, then they got some new people there, and they started asking me to write again. And then one day they came to me and asked me to write about this was about the exit of Hope Hicks from the Trump White House. So I did. I wrote, and it was funny. It was scathing. She had hardly bathed herself in glory with her personal life spilling over with the married men and that sort of thing and all her drama. And actually not really having proper background for that to begin with. So I was commissioned to write this for The Hill. And it went to publication online. Well, somebody at the White House didn't like that. They didn't like that I was being a little bit snarky towards Hope Hicks. So they made a call to the Hill and it was pulled. It came down from the website. It took me a couple of days to try and find out what happened. It's like, where is it? And then somebody else was supposed to call me. I never, all I know is somebody high up had seen it, higher up, and pulled it. Again, after I was asked to write it, I didn't even come up with the idea to write about Hope Hicks. I was asked by The Hill, by one of the editors, to write about it. Well, the publisher of The Hill had become quite MAGA at the time, and his wife, or the publisher owner, and his wife, had actually worked at the White House, had worked for Melania, I think, in some capacity. I don't know if it was a White House or campaign, but there was that connection. She later, I think, went to work for Jeff Zucker at CNN around the same time that I got banned for criticizing Trump on the air. See how this goes? So this is nothing new, but I guess I wasn't important enough or high profile enough for it to make some news. Although there were some other news, there were some reporters that caught on and some media writers that did write about it. In fact, at the Washington Post when the Hill was doing this, and this happened to the Hill. So um, I decided that I would no longer write for the Hill, obviously. And since I kind of went public with it, and then I posted the piece that they had asked me to write, and that was actually posted on the website for just a few hours or for a day before it was pulled. So I started putting it in other places, and Eric Wimple at the Washington Post did something on it and linked to it. And he had written before when CNN did the same thing, banned me in early 2016 because of Trump. Not because I did anything wrong, but because Trump didn't like what I was saying about him. What I was saying about him was all true, of course, and I could prove it. And that was the problem. Jeff Zucker at the time ran CNN, and he was Trump's little buddy. He used to brag about being Trump's personal booker. And when he was at NBC and he was head of entertainment, he greenlit The Apprentice for Trump, which then helped Zucker's career and brought Trump back from the dead with his fake apprentice, pretend billionaire, shtick. So this does happen. There are clashes when media does, a little bit of funny business with the independence of writers and reporters. So kudos to Ruth Marcus for quitting the Washington Post. I think that's something that had to be very painful for her, certainly more so than me leaving the Hill. The Hill was not a full-time job. It was just some little, you just write a little bit. Same at USA Today when I was a columnist there. They don't pay you much to do it. But when you are a full-time on paper columnist like Ruth Marcus is, that's a big deal. It is a bigger job. It is considered a full-time gig. It is your thing. It's not something you do on the side. And again, she was one of those institutions in Washington in terms of people listening and reading and thinking about what she was writing, knowing that it was coming from an informed, thoughtful, and ethical place, even if you disagreed with her. One time I was booked with her on PBS, the NewsHour, and we were on together. And afterwards, now at the time, I was a Republican operative, one of those rhinos. This was years before Trump. And somebody complained to PBS, and the ombudsman had to get involved and say it's not appropriate for a partisan political operative to be on one side and have to debate a columnist, an opinion columnist, even if that columnist tends to lean what some people might consider left or whatever. And the thing is, they were right. They were right. I didn't book the gig. I get calls at that time, get calls to be on TV all the time. And if I felt like it and had the time, I would do it. Nobody was paying me, but it was good for my business. It was fun to do. And when you're asked to go on TV, you tend to go on TV. I mean, why not? And by the way, it's a Judy Woodruff, and she's wonderful, and I'm a huge fan. And I'm a fan of Ruth Marcus, even if I didn't always agree with her. So there are these certain ethical guidelines that everybody just knew to adhere to. And if they weren't adhering to them, there was recourse. That's out the window now. So I think it's a good guess that Ruth Marcus, when she wrote this piece, she knew that she was poking the bear. She maybe was doing her part to say, okay, a lot of people in my industry are putting it on the line to test the waters, to push that envelope to see how bad this is. So I think she knew that this could come to a head, and that she was probably prepared to take this action. So it's one thing if there's blowback from the brass, from the suits, from your boss, if you write something they don't like, but to simply stop the publication and not allow the column to be published when you've been a columnist. I don't know. I was trying to look at how many years she'd been with the Washington Post, but it's a very, very long time, decades, I believe. I mean, it's been, I don't know how many years, like I said, since I was on TV with her at PBS, and that was, gosh, at least 15. It had to have been at least 15 years ago or something like that. And so she was a longtime columnist Post before that. So I admire her for this. We've all gone through stuff in the era of Trump, you know, that I have. But I admire Ruth Marcus for making this move. I hope that there's another prominent role for her somewhere else. In fact, our media has to change, and there will be big media outlets that I think are created as a result of this era of Trump killing journalism as we know it. People are doing their Substacks and their podcasts and whatnot, but I'm looking for something big to be created, maybe that's multifaceted, that is somehow television. Also, make it like a national cable network that also has local affiliates, kind of like how Fox News then has the Fox affiliates, and then also has other aspects to it, such as radio. Well, actually, you know, Fox does all that. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is I hope that a Mark Cuban or somebody like that comes up and creates the same thing. It takes the Ruth Marcuses and takes the Jim Acostas and people like that, and the Mendy, and I don't know, people like me for the pundits and folks that did put it on the line. I think we have a lot of players that look like they put it on the line. They pretend like they put it on the line, but basically only after they got what they needed or wanted from Trump, you know, they ran out of road, or they saw an opportunity to turn it into a grift when they finally see the light. I'll repeat, I don't trust the never Trumper people who claim who were with him and then claim they just didn't know any better, that they were so easily fooled and then they saw the light. I think that's a lot of BS. I know this industry very well and the people in it, and nobody is that stupid. Okay? They weren't fooled. They simply didn't care because they were on the winning team and they were getting something out of it, or they thought they were getting something out of it. And then once they quit their jobs with Trump, all of a sudden they see the light and they write their books. And as I said, many of these people are people you never heard of before. They weren't major players. And all of a sudden they get TV time and their book deals. And, you know, so they used their time with Trump to create their own little opportunities. And I'm all for people, you know, capitalizing on their career and whatnot. But some of this was just a bridge too far. And you know how I feel about the Conways situation that too. Yeah, we're friends with them and know about him and fly around his plane and, you know, associate with them. And then, but then we're with Cruz. And then when the Cambridge Analytica, you know, people left Cruz and they move over to Trump, we just happen to go with Trump too. And then we don't get a couple of jobs that we wanted with Trump and it gets out. So we suddenly see the light and turn against him and become all never Trump and get on TV and, you know, so people, you know, capitalize on the fame of their relatives, spouses, whatever, to get what they want. They'll capitalize on a few months or a couple of years of working with Trump. And then when it doesn't work out, you know, there's a certain high profile former Lincoln Project guy who was flying to New York as late as March of 2016, trying to get a job running Trump's campaign. And then he later became all never Trumpy, at least for a while, and made a lot of money building that generational wealth. Yeah. So I think it's important that we know the difference between the people who really are sacrificing, who really are putting it on the line, and those who just see an opportunity for for the grift for themselves and pretend that they're putting it all on the line. Um, you're not doing any good if you raise $100 million and you spend 50 million of it to stuff in your own pockets, because that money is supposed to be used to elect Democrats, and it isn't. So, the Democratic House majority is literally sitting in the bank accounts of a certain grifting group like that. But somebody like Ruth Marcus quitting the Washington Post after all these years and doing it for the right reasons, taking a hit, but really standing up for what's right, not because there's a grift in it for her somewhere, not because it's a way for her to, come out of nowhere and then all of a sudden become this hero. She is a real deal. And I feel the same way about Jim Acosta leaving CNN. They were bumping him from a prominent spot during the day to, midnight. And they were doing this for Trump. And he quit. And he quit. And he should. Uh, those are the people that I want to keep listening to and keep watching and hoping that they land somewhere well. Actually, not just land. I don't want them to just land. I want something to be created where people like them and hopefully people like me can thrive and do good work and do it based on doing the right thing. And I think that when you take out the grifters and put in just the real deal people, you have a much better chance of A, getting it right, and B, winning over and maintaining the trust of people. And while we don't have a crystal ball to look into the future to know why that trust is going to be so important, I think in this era of Trump, Elon, and Putin, and the oligarchs who own and run the media, I think we know that that trust is going to be tested a lot, and we can't afford to get it wrong. So I want to see Ruth Marcus prominently in whatever could be developed, Jim Acosta, me, and a few others who were never Trumpers and didn't become never Trump just to make a buck. Many of us lost everything, everything. Um, and, we deserve to, well, we'll never get it back. But I think that if you've done what a Ruth Marcus has done, what a Jim Acosta has done, or if you've had to go through what some of the rest of us have gone through, um, hopefully that's a lot of credibility for a new audience moving forward. There's really no other way. I hope these people don't disappear. Shame on the Washington Post, but this is big news. This is big news that they killed a column by longtime columnist Ruth Marcus because they just didn't like what she had to say. That is censorship. That is basically cutting out, the free press. And don't read the Washington Post. Don't subscribe to the Washington Post. Just don't. They're gone. Whatever they used to be, whatever we hoped they could be, it's over. It's over. So we'll find out what Ruth Marcus is going to do. Maybe she'll start a Substack or a podcast or do a YouTube or something like that. Or maybe she'll go to another paper that hasn't succumbed to Putin-style tactics. But I look forward to seeing what she does next because while she had an important voice before, I think now what she has to say and what she stands for is more important than ever. So thank you, Ruth Marcus, for what you've done. We appreciate it. We do.